Good afternoon and welcome to another Meet and Greet Monday. This is Jenna Rovira, and today's amazing guest is one of our awesome volunteers, Miss Sue Enberg. How are you, Miss Sue?
I am good. I would be better if I were down by MTRA.
Yes, we missed you. How's everything going up home? Maybe you can share a little bit about where you're from.
I'm from a little place called Hager City, Wisconsin, which is right along the Minnesota border, right along the Mississippi River. I live on my husband's home farm. He was born onto this place. We have 70 acres with a little trout stream that runs through it. And I've had lots of pasture and spring fed, so the horses have always had fresh, cold water, never freezes.
Beautiful. That never freezing part's probably the best part in the winter.
Yeah, when we built this house down here, well, almost 30 years ago, otherwise we dealt with a water tank that you had to thaw out every day in the winter, you know.
Oh yeah, definitely. All right, so you volunteer here at MTRA, which is quite a hike if you're going back and forth between here and there.
Well, it's 1,600 miles, so we ended up buying a house that's 4.5 miles from MTRA down in Ocala.
So you are what
we winter there.
Some of our amazing riders refer to as snowbirds.
Yep. I have no problem with that because we want to be out of the snow.
Very good, very good. Well, how long have you been volunteering with MTRA?
I don't have the best memory of the date of it, but I think it was December 2012 because we were camped at Lake Waldena the winter before. In the spring before we left, my husband talked to a guy that was putting cowboy hat and boots on, and he said, "Are you going horseback riding?" Because Herb's always looking out for something that he thinks I might enjoy. Mm-hmm. And he said, "No, I'm going to volunteer at a therapeutic riding program." And we were leaving shortly to come back to Wisconsin. And so while up here, I researched it and found MTRA, had my papers done when we came to Florida. That was my first stop.
Awesome. The rest is history. You've been
never regretted it.
Well, so that answers what brought you here in the first place. Can you share a little bit about what your volunteering experience has been like? Like, what do you do when you come to MTRA?
I'm pretty much willing to do anything but paperwork. I mean, I'll feed. My husband and I both help with feeding. I'll do a leader, I'll sidewalk, I'll clean tack, I'll pick apples. A lot of people have to learn what I mean when I say picking apples.
Do we have apple trees here?
Yeah, they're called Goldie and Marshmallow. My dad grew up farming with horses, and so he used to say, "Well, we got to go pick apples when you had to pick up horse manure because they're called them barnyard apples."
There you go.
And so I'll go and clean out the Diet Girls pasture. I'll help fence. I'll do whatever. You know, I'm happy to help.
And that you do, that's for sure. Do you recommend volunteering to others?
Oh, so much. I get back so much more when I volunteer than what I put into it. It truly feeds my soul because I grew up always wanting to help. And this lets me help. It keeps me active. It gives you social activities. Everybody's so great to work with. Yeah, I highly recommend volunteering in whatever form you choose. You know, everybody isn't a horse volunteer. Just pick something and be active.
Yeah, I agree, definitely. So you alluded to it a little bit, but prior to MTRA, did you work with horses much?
I've been blessed to have horses for about 57 years. Herb and I were dating back then, and he found out I liked horses, and so he surprised me with the first horse. It was a little bitty mini that hadn't been handled, and pretty soon I had it pulling logs. I made a harness for it and had it pulling logs and given the nieces and nephews ponyback rides on it. And I pretty much had horses ever since until May 30th. I had to make the decision to find a new home and pass my 2 horses along. It was a difficult decision, but being in Florida for 6 months, it was the right decision for them and for me. And a gal that used to come and ride with me when I was first training the first of my Tennessee walkers, she'd come and ride one of my other horses. She and her 2 daughters now have them. They have a wonderful home. And so I'm really at peace with it. I can stay connected and they're together, and it just worked out the best way possible.
Oh, awesome. Definitely.
Yeah.
I know that's probably one of our biggest worries, is always making sure that they have a good home and a good life, because they do so much for us.
Yeah, the decision-making year was tough because I wanted them to go together. It's a mother and son. They've never been off the place for 13 years. You know, how do I make that happen? How do I know they're going to be taken care of safely? And now I can keep in contact, and they've got a good place to be.
Good, good, good. So outside of your own horses, thinking about the MTRA horses, do you have a favorite horse to work with?
Well, they're all really great. They all bring a special charm of their own to the program. But I got to say Snowflake, because she is just the autopilot horse. Whatever you ask of her, she's willing. Whatever, you know, you can let her loose to eat, and then you just walk up to her and she comes like, oh, did you want me? I'll go wherever you want. So my husband calls her his girlfriend when he feeds. Oh, I got to go pick up my girlfriend.
Oh, perfect. Well, and she was our horse of the year this year, very much entitled to it. So
I'm not much of a politician, but I do admit I lobbied hard for her.
Well, she's very deserving. These guys all are, but she's definitely, I remember one of my first volunteer experiences. She was carrying a rider that ended up having a small seizure, but she stopped, and we couldn't figure out initially what it was, but she sensed it before we could visibly see it. It speaks to the magic of the horses and how in tune they are to what's going on with their people.
Wesley did that for us once over at Hillcrest with a kid with a seizure. And he's another one that, you know, back then in his career, now he'll stop once in a while, but back then he was just fabulous, and he would not move. And then suddenly the kid went into actually like a grand mal almost.
Oh, yeah.
But we safely had the child off, and the child was fine, and you know, everything was handled well. So, but those horses, they sense so much.
Definitely. And I know you've ridden some of the horses here at MTR, but also with your own horses. Do you have a preference of groundwork, bareback, English, Western? I imagine it's probably not English with that hat you're wearing.
Well, actually, I prefer Western. Yeah, I'm not very good on bareback because it pretty near takes a crane to get me on, but I can do it at a walk. And I did trot a little bit. I think it was Goldie, I believe. I did trot a little in the arena bareback one time. But I found out, I've ridden a few in the schooling lessons that we do. I've ridden a few with English saddles. The first English saddle I ever sat on, it was the most uncomfortable thing. I could not imagine why anybody would want it. But now I find out there's a lot of difference in English saddles. And I think it was it Pedro's that I rode last year? And it's just as comfortable as it can be. And of course, he's a dream. But so I can do English. I prefer Western, but I don't have to be riding. I can do leading. I can do whatever anybody wants. I just want to be able to help. And some of the volunteers feel real strongly they came to work with horses. They want to work with horses, and that's fine. I'll do whatever the instructor wants. You know, that has to be our guiding, because they know the riders, they know the horses, they have their plan. We have to follow their lead. And so if somebody else wants to lead and it's okay with the instructor, I can find, there's a lot to do. I can find a lot to do.
Yeah, definitely. We have volunteers that kind of come from all different backgrounds, and I think that's one of the really cool things with the base of volunteers that we have. But you especially, I know I love having you in one of my classes as a volunteer, because I feel safer, and I know even in some cases some of the parents love your background with some of their kids. Can you tell us a little bit about what your career was and what you bring?
I spent 37 and a half years in bedside nursing, most of it in critical care. Loved every minute of it. I think it adds to what I can contribute to MTRA, partly the compassion, partly anticipating the needs of the riders, picking up on things. We had a rider last year, I believe it was in one of Miss Pam's class, and she is already an amputee on one side. And when we got her on the horse and I sidewalk with her, as we're walking away and the next rider is mounting, she said, I have to be careful. I have a sore on my other leg, but I don't want to tell anybody because they won't let me ride. And I said, oh, Miss Pam needs to know that. That's very important. I said, there's ways to help you ride, but we don't want to damage that tissue because it takes a long time to heal. If she had issues, she's lost one leg, she needs to protect the other. And so I told Miss Pam, and right away we got padding that worked, and she got her lesson in, and she enjoyed her ride without pain instead of just gritting her teeth and getting through it because she wanted to ride that much.
Right.
It meant that much to her. But I knew that this wasn't a secret that should be kept. That's important information. And some of that came from my nursing background, just knowing about pressure sores and how vulnerable you are to have them get so much more worse. So.
Definitely. How long have you been retired?
I retired in 2011. I can't hardly believe it. Where did that time go?
Yes, it flies. What would you say maybe is your most impactful moment or memory with volunteering here at MTRA?
I've got one, and it'll bring goosebumps on me. I had worked for a couple of years with a seasonal rider that had been in a horrific car accident. Okay. Her husband always brought her. She needed a lot of assistance because she had a severe head injury and had weakness and so forth. She had to have two sidewalkers that were very attentive because she had lost her sense of, now I'm going to use a big medical word, proprioception, which is the body's ability to know whether your head is up or down, whether you're laying on your side. She had no sense of body position. And so the sidewalkers were very important because she'd be riding along and start to lean and get off balance and not realize it. So we'd just say, lean to your left, lean to your left. I was sidewalking with her when therapeutic riding gave her back that sense of proprioception. In there's the chills on my arms right now.
Yeah.
She looked at me and she said, I can tell I'm crooked. I can feel I'm crooked. That's the first time since the accident. I can tell I need to straighten up. We still did two sidewalkers with her, but she could correct herself. And that's what therapeutic riding gave to her. But we see miracles every day there, little miracles and big miracles. That's why it gives back more when you get to see that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. What would you say in your time during the winter when you come down and you volunteer at MTRA? You kind of alluded to it again earlier, but what kind of benefits does volunteering give you as a person?
It's almost too many to list. It gives me a reason to get up in the morning, sometimes real early when the frost, to come feed.
Yeah.
But we're early risers and we're happy to do it. You get that just sense of peace. I love to volunteer to feed on Christmas because there's nothing better than the sound of the horses eating their breakfast in the early morning on Christmas. It's just gives me peace. I feel like I contribute. That's important to me, to be able to give something, because I have been so given to and so blessed in my life that I just want to reflect back a little bit of that joy that I've had to other people. And so that's a big event to just contribute. I feel very appreciated when I'm working there. The riders, the parents, the instructors, the office staff, everybody is just so appreciative, and you just feel like you didn't do very much, but they make you just feel like you gave them the world just by being there. So it really does feed my soul to volunteer there. And everybody across the board is so nice. You know, once in a while, somebody might be having an off day, and maybe you can brighten their day with something, or maybe you can just sense that they just need a little quiet time, maybe just give them space, but nobody's there and crabby and chewing at each other. You know, I like the camaraderie that comes from working there.
Definitely. And you definitely do contribute. You are so amazing. And I think a lot of magic happens here. It's just one of the really neat things with a program like this. And then you volunteer on Wednesdays. I've heard you guys have like the Wednesday crew. Miss Shelley, our volunteer coordinator, very affectionately refers to you guys as the Wednesday crew.
When I come, the classes have usually started, and so I don't, you know, I've worked, I think, pretty much every day of the week, except I've only picked up for special events on Saturday, because usually there's a lot of volunteers for Saturday. What I do when I come, because the program has started, I said, where do you need me? What is a hole you have that needs filling? I'll work whatever. But if I get to work with some of the old gang that I've worked with through the years, and some of the experienced volunteers who I kind of help start and see how far they've come, and then working with the same riders, I tend to show up. If I'm not with riders I've had before, I'll at least show up to see how far they've come. If I can help a first-time rider, that is just the best blessing in the world. The first experience with a horse, to share that love for it, and to see it build and see their experience build. So even if the next year I'm not in working with their class, you know, I'm going to show up to just touch base with them and tell them how proud I am that they've come so far, you know.
Oh, definitely. That makes me think of you and Michaela and how amazing she did her first year with you, and then you know, she lights up every time she sees you.
Yeah, Michaela, there's a list. You know, Megan, I was there for her first ride. I worked with her that first year, and there's so many riders that are like that just touch your heart, and there's a bond that will stay longer than that lesson.
Yep.
You know.
Absolutely. And that's a good one too, Megan. You think about her first year coming, and then she went to nationals last November. It's incredible that.
And won.
Yes.
At nationals. Yeah.
Yes.
But Megan wouldn't have cared if she was there. You know, the winning isn't the point with our riders. The winning is, they're winning every time they ride their horse, and they know that. So.
Absolutely. What do you have a goal? I think I've picked up kind of on a common thread, but what is your goal when you come here to volunteer?
I just want to help.
Yeah.
I want to make it as good an experience for anybody who's on the place that day that I can, whether it's, like I say, whether it's a volunteer who's having a tough day, whether it's someplace I can pick up the slack to help somebody else out. That's all I want to do.
Yeah. And that you do. You do a very, very good job. I can easily see how you were a nurse, and I imagine the patients loved you. So,
well, there again, who is so blessed to work 37 and a half years in a career that they always wanted to do. And there were days that, I maybe had other things I might want to do, but I never didn't like my job. And people just don't get that in this world. They do not get the blessing of always loving their job. And now in volunteering, I love my job.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I think that's probably would be, I saw something the other day, what would you tell your 20-year-old self if you could? That's one of the things. I mean, choose a career or area that you love, because why do you want to go be miserable?
Then you never work a day in your life.
Yep, exactly.
If you love what you're doing.
Definitely. And I'm throwing a left ball or left field question.
I can catch good. I'm not much of a thrower, but I can catch really good in ball. What
is your biggest take from working with horses? Like, what is what would you say one of the most important lessons horses have ever taught you would be?
It's taught me that I need to be patient, that I need to give an important task the time it takes to develop, either for me to develop the skills to accomplish it, or to give, especially with a horse or with a new rider, to give them the time and the patience to develop their skills. None of us are put on this earth knowing everything in the world. And so I precepted a lot with new nurses in critical care. And you have to be willing to share that knowledge and help them learn and grow to become independent. And horses have to do it, humans have to do it, riders have to do it, volunteers, everybody. I've worked with instructors as they were taking the classes, you know, students who were coming along and learning. They don't know it all, and they're just as insecure as everybody else as they're starting. So we all work together as a team, we all grow, and it comes out good.
Definitely. I think I was one of those instructors. You helped me
I
get through
seem to recall,
certification.
but you had so much background and so much skill that you came that I just kind of am in awe of so many of these people who come and take the classes, because you know, your knowledge base that you bring to it. I've ridden for 57 years. Well, I've ridden since I was a little kid, but I never had a lesson. I read everything I could and I watched everything, but I learned something every day at MTRA, something new or something to build on that, you know, never having had lessons, and to see people who are skilled and who know and are able to teach it just amazes me.
Yeah, definitely. Well,
it's a
and
good
I think
day when you learn something new.
Well, I think that's just it though. That's one of the, like, for me, I learned so much from the riders and from the volunteers that, you know, if we're open-minded, there's stuff we can all learn all the time, every day. So get perfect little environment to do that. All right, so we have a few silly questions now for the end of our interview. We'll do it two ways. You could either pick, if you were going to be an MTRA horse, which one would you be? Or if you could pick any breed, which breed would you be?
Well, you won't remember her. Some of our older, Karen Cunningham will remember her, but June was a Belgian horse that was over at Hillcrest. She was a big old workhorse, and I worked with her, and that's probably what I'd be. Because she isn't very flashy. But she did whatever she needed to do what you asked. And I guess that's kind of my theory. I'll do whatever, and I try not to be too flashy or up front.
Well, I would say that probably fits. I never met June, but she's kind of legendary. I've certainly heard stories about her. So I think the way they describe her, that certainly fits you.
She was a good old steady workhorse, and I'm happy being that.
Oh, very good. When you were a kid, did you know what you wanted to be? Did you want to be a nurse or?
Absolutely.
Did you?
I can remember, probably my earliest memory is about 4 or 5 years old, and somebody would say, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I'd say, "I'm going to be a nurse." And they pat you on the head and they say, "Yeah, all little girls want to be nurses, but you'll change your mind."
Never did.
Never doubted it. Can't imagine ever doing anything else. Who gets that blessing?
Yep. Very awesome. Well, I'd say it suits you. Do you have a favorite book or a TV show?
Well, let's see. Favorite books, I've read all of the Walter Farley's Black Stallion series. I have several. I reread them. They never get old. As a child, we didn't get a TV till I was about 8 or 9. And then they had the Saturday morning Hopalong Cassidy and Roy Rogers and Gene Autry. And so I fell in love with being a cowboy. Western shows. There was a show called Fury, which was about a black stallion with a young boy that he bonded with that kid, and I loved watching that.
Was there a red pony involved in that one too? Do I remember?
No.
Okay.
Well, they had, the black stallion would intermingle with other horses through the thing, but that one, you might be thinking of Flicka. Flicka was a chestnut.
Yeah.
But that was a good show too. But if I were going to pick a modern day one, I think it'd probably be NCIS because Mark Harmon is really good eye candy.
Love it. I'd agree with you there. All right. And then do you have, if you could pick from anything, your most favorite game or activity that you could do?
Well, at least Herb and I had the same interests. We never watched any commercial sports, or, never turned on any kind of ball game. My favorite activity is doing something with my grandkids, great-grandkids, my family.
Definitely.
We watch our 7-year-old great-granddaughter 2 days a week when we're up here, and this, especially now with no school and COVID and stuff. And then the new 1-year-old great-granddaughter, we usually get 1 day with her. So,
is that the one we got to meet right before all this coronavirus?
Yes, that was Miss Olivia.
She was adorable.
You can't keep track of her because she's walking, holding things, but boy, she can go 40 miles an hour to crawl. Like, where's Olivia now?
Yes, yep. They hit the ground running. You go from that crawling and you can't wait till they walk to, oh, where did that just crawling and cuddling phase go? Yeah. Awesome, awesome. All right. Well, is there anything else you can think of adding or anything you would want to share?
I suppose we have to address the hat.
Oh, yes. The infamous hat.
When I first saw the Westerns on TV, I loved the cowboy hat. Well, then I grew up working on my neighbor's farm every day of the week, dawn till dusk, because they had animals. And so I'd be there in the morning and milk, and we'd drive the tractor and all this stuff. And being out in the sun, I thought, I want to wear a cowboy hat. So I started wearing one when I was about 9, and I wear one all the time. I've got a cowboy hat for down there. I wear it at the stable. This is my hat for up here. I've got a work hat that I won't show you because it's really battered, but it's a cowboy hat.
It's worked a lot of days in its life.
Oh. and I get sweaty, and then I tend to take it off by here. So now there's a hole in it up here where I put my finger to take it off.
Yeah.
So this is when I volunteered at Therapeutic riding program up here, and so this was when I rode. This was my riding hat, but I also wear this to the Therapeutic riding program. And pretty soon I've sweat enough in the one at MTRA. I'm probably going to need a new hat down there pretty soon. You'll be ashamed of me.
Oh. Well,
but I always tell people, you don't have to remember my name. Just holler, hey, you with the hat.
The signature hat. That is every time we sign into meetings too.
I'll take it. And I did get a haircut, so I can show you, but I feel better with the hat. That's why I have this haircut, because it works with my hat.
It's the hat. Well,
I can wear the hat. I don't get crease spots, and I can take it off and go to town if I need to, and
you're all set.
I'm set.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, Miss Sue, you are absolutely amazing. I can't thank you enough for what you do for our program, for what you do for me, because you're just an inspiration and full of joy. It's a pleasure working with you.
Well, it's a pleasure being there, and I look forward to we get up here, we came back up, we flew up during the virus thing, March, to get back home. Mm-hmm. We were going to stay another month. I said to my husband, even if the virus, because being a nurse, this thing is not a 6-month deal. We're going to be probably 2 years before they get a satisfactory vaccine so that things can find some semblance of normal. And I said, if there's still so many precautions, are we going to go back down in the winter? Well, then we got up, he came up for turkey hunting, of course, and there was frost and snow coming down because it was mid-March in Wisconsin. And he said, I don't care what's going on. We're going to Florida. So I'll be seeing you this winter again.
Oh, good. Good, good. Well, we'll play it by ear. We're hoping and praying things get a little better with everything, this virus. It's been a roller coaster here, but
we'll make it work. And even if even if he and I just come over, or I come over and feed horses, you know, to take a little load off somebody off there, because I don't know how you guys have managed 19 horses with, you know, just yourselves. It's got to be exhausting, but I never see frowns. I only see smiling faces. I see everybody pulling together, and that's what it's about. But we get down and we can help a little bit, maybe.
Oh, well, definitely. We will anxiously await the day and look forward to seeing your guys's.
Won't be long. We're almost done with June.
I know. Oh, I know, it's flying.
Next Sunday will be Herb and I's 50th wedding anniversary. So.
Oh, wow. See,
Yeah.
there you go with that inspiration again. Well, happy early wedding anniversary. That's a milestone.
Yeah, well, we tell people say, well, how did you stay married so long? I said, it's day to day. And
Yeah.
I say that in kidding, but there's a lot of truth to that. If you don't put work into a marriage day to day, you don't get 50 years.
Yep.
So
it's hard work, just like everything else that's great in this life.
But it's worth it.
Absolutely. All right, Miss Sue, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you again here soon. You take care.
Okay, I hope if it isn't usable, just dump it.
No chance.
We'll be seeing you soon, dear. Take care. Love to all.
Likewise. Take care.
Yep. Bye.